Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining our podcast, Moms on the Move. I'm Jen Wills.
And I'm Ashley Steigerwald.
We have fellow podcast guest, Deborah Hawkins, with us today.
Thanks you for having me.
I know. So she is about to release her podcast called Golden's Guide to Divorce.
That's correct.
You film in the same studio, so in the next few weeks.
Yes. So, it's interesting to be on this side
right.
for a while.
Yes.
Do you use the same studio setup?
Actually,
I'm usually at the desk, but
and you can't see it, but there's like a desk to the left of us that's kind of a more like a news style.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But I'm hoping to use the sofa look at some point.
Well, she's coming back. We're going to have, this is part one. We're going to do a 2-part series. They're not completely related topics. So today we kind of wanted to use your wisdom and discuss like resilience and what you're seeing like with women today and, just how things have even changed, like your advice to moms today.
Right.
Having been through it.
Yeah.
So,
and I was so glad when we chatted about it because I had just finished a blog about resilience. And I think, there's a lot of things about women and what's going on today that happened even when my child was younger.
Mm-hmm.
There's always stress levels when you're working full time and when you have children and if you're married and the things that are going on today, like, at our age, you could, parents might be having problems or COVID. So I think the whole idea of, I know self-care gets thrown around a lot, but I was just going to give some tips that I've found that have worked for me for 30 years and for my clients even now.
because you're a life coach.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
So, and I've been working with women for years, and I think one of the first things is doing your best to have a daily practice, which I know that's really hard when you got kids and you got work and you got a life and you got a podcast. And I'm talking about, a practice even if it's just 5 minutes. I used to get up really early in the morning before I sent my child off to school and before I went to work. Just to have that time, even if it's 5 minutes.
Yep.
I'd take the time at lunch if I had to. I think it's really important because that helps us stay self-aware.
Yes.
Because,
and sane.
And sane, exactly.
Yeah.
That's right where I was going because if we're not really paying attention and we go into autopilot, that's when we kind of go off the rails. We might get upset with the kids or the husband or the family or the job seems too much and the overwhelm really takes over. So so when I say a daily practice, that can be, just a few minutes of reflection, a few minutes of listening to a great podcast, just that time to click off for a minute, I think that's huge. And I did it 30 years ago, and I've continued to do it, and I encourage my clients to find what works for them.
My goal this year had been, like, wake up early and try to do, like, the gratitude journal.
Yes.
I made it a few days because I think what was happening, like, then my baby, I was joking, but, like, serious, because I feel like my baby can smell when I wake up.
I
like,
love
from
that.
across the house, because even today I, like, got up, was drying my hair, got up early, and I could hear him, like, stirring, and I'm like, I never hear you unless,
Yeah.
So I did try to have, like, a little bit of my time, and I was looking at Platts.
Fun.
This morning I got up early.
Sounds
but
very exciting.
You need, like, it's like, even that, though, is, me time right now.
Yeah, and it's a challenge. I mean, at any age. I mean, it's a challenge. I mean, it's so easy for us to put ourselves last on the list. I think women for centuries, have done that. And, us kind of weaning ourselves out of that, it's, I think it's a constant challenge for all women.
Yep.
And then not beating yourself up, too, is a big thing. Like if you say, okay, I'm going to get up and do my gratitude, and it doesn't happen, to, not punish yourself and just find what does work. Maybe it's, walking with your toddler outside for 2 minutes, you know, and looking at what's beautiful, and just
What do you do?
So I just finished this book called Burnout, and it's written by two twins, and I forgot their name. The last name is Nagoski, I think, Nagoski. Burnout, so good. I almost sent you because I think when you finish a book, an Audible, you can send it to a friend, and it popped up, and I was like, I need to send this to Jen later. It was like my brain went explosion. But one of the two things I really took out of there is one, they talk about human giver syndrome, where as women we're supposed to be pleasing, beautiful, helping of others, always there to lend a helping hand, to always be available, to be of service to our children and our husband and our friends. And it's this idea that we deplete ourselves.
Yeah.
And then the biggest thing I took away from that book was, what is burnout? It's the accumulation of stress. And stress is that cycle. They talk about fight, flight, or freeze.
Yes.
And then when you get stuck in freeze, which I absolutely related to, where you feel just so overwhelmed, you don't know what to do, you're kind of playing dead, you have to complete the stress cycle. So in completing the stress cycle can be, and what they're saying is it accumulates in your body. That stress is
Mine
physiological.
comes out as like anger.
Yeah, because you didn't complete the stress cycle.
Yeah.
So in fight, you punch somebody and you feel better afterward, right? Flight, you run, you have that physical sensation of running that completes the stress cycle, but in freeze, you don't complete that stress cycle. So then it sticks in your body.
I call it like the can't get up off the sofa syndrome.
Yes.
When there's too much to do.
Yeah, and the overwhelm just kicks in so hard, you don't even know what to do next, so you do nothing.
I talked to you in the morning yesterday, and I was like, my kids have been, I was telling you, they've been in this like COVID exposure. I think their school had it weeks ago. And then it's finally back in school, but then it's coinciding with spring break. So they've been home now for, I call it 2 years. 2 years. We're going on 2 years. And like yesterday I was trying to do work. I had all this stuff I had to do. And I couldn't get in my head, even to get a to-do list done.
Right.
And so I ended up changing rooms, and I told the boys just go, and I sat down and had the to-do list, which almost made me feel worse because it was so long. But
to-do lists sometimes just
did help because then I can check my stuff off.
Well, and sometimes they call it like brain drain. If you can just get it out of your mind, and it's there, and you'll get to it.
It's like all the stuff you can't forget.
Right.
Well, I think I always think of it as like tabs on a browser window. Like I've got 127 tabs open.
Yes.
And if I can get it down on paper and something organized, then I can alleviate a couple of those browsers.
Right.
And then think more clearly about what needs to move forward. But yeah, that freeze cycle.
But I wanted to mention something else about that too. I'm still in the middle of writing a blog about that. About when we do begin to take care of ourselves, when we learn techniques, the world isn't always happy with you.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing I'm writing about now because, as true givers, and that's almost like cellular for women.
It makes you look selfish.
Yes, and then especially if you've done it for a long time and you stop. People around you are like, what's wrong with you? Or, so I think there's really a deeper looking at being willing to disappoint others sometimes, to take care of yourself. Years ago, I had a great therapist tell me, she wrote it down on a yellow sticky for me, and I carried it, I swear, y'all, I carried it in my purse for 5 years, and it said, it is my job to disappoint at least one person every day.
Yeah.
And I think if we're not doing that, we all want to please people.
Yeah.
We all want to be nice. But if we're not working somehow towards that, we're giving in to that stress level and
overwhelm.
I think a lot of women, too, have just such a hard time saying no. They get, invited here. They have to do this. They have to, do concessions at T-ball. They have to do
sending stuff into school. This sounds terrible, but when I was doing the PTA thing for a while, not my gig, not my party. And so the next year I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And it's like, you don't want to help the school?
I told you about
Shame.
the frozen corn story.
Yeah. Just tell the frozen corn story.
So I had just had my second, and it was Thanksgiving. It was like a Thanksgiving feast, they called it, for Bennett's classroom. And I was so tired, so I signed up for like corn. And I remember like just getting the corn and being so proud of myself for remembering that. So my husband had to pack that day, and we're on our way to like Somerville, where he's from, for Thanksgiving. And he like looks at me, he's like, I meant to tell you, because I sent him with it. He's like, I walked in and there was these crock pots and like warm dishes, and he's like, the teacher looked at me like I was insane. I sent a frozen bag of kerneled corn in a manila envelope, not even that you could microwave. It was oven, you had to cook it. And so he like brought it in this manila envelope, and he's like, I was so embarrassed, Jen.
Oh no, he was embarrassed. You
Yeah,
know?
I was like, oh my God. Apparently that like went down in history. They still bring it up to me, the teachers. Like, who is this woman?
You know what? And I love the fact that we can sit here and laugh about that stuff, because, I mean, people are suffering with this whole perfectionism, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm actually kind of liking that more and more people, I mean, y'all are so real, which I appreciate, but, you know, more and more people, even on social media, are admitting, you know, yeah, I'm still in my bathrobe, and it's,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
11 o'clock or noon, or I haven't been out in my pajamas all day.
Well, I know my mom has always, like, she's multiple times said to me, when she was raising us, and she said when my grandmother was raising her, you know, 5 kids, my mom's one of 5 siblings, the expectations to keep your kids busy like we do today were never there. I mean, I think I went outside and played in the dirt and in the trees, and she's like,
No one knew where I was.
we didn't really do like half the stuff, not even half the stuff, like a quarter of the stuff that you're taking your kids to.
Yeah.
Like that entertaining. I got to go. Yesterday I took them to the airport park. We went out to lunch. I mean, you know, we are so busy, and you feel guilty if you're just like having them sit at the house or say go out, play out back. I mean, I know I struggle with that. If I'm like, go play out back, I'm like, ooh, I'm being really lazy right now.
Well, and I mean, I think that's where it comes in, that you just have to, you know, let go of the idea of perfection. And, you know, if they're getting that love and attention every day from at least one parent, you know, you can go to bed at night and say, okay, I did the best I could, you know. And I think trying to fill our days, or our children's days, I do think it does more harm than good.
Yeah.
Because it creates that sense of they don't know how to slow down, so they grow up and be adults.
And you need them to be bored. Like you keep hearing, like, being bored is okay.
Being bored can bring out, you know, creativity and, you know, that kind of thing. So,
but it's the pressure of concerted cultivation, where if your kid isn't playing a sport, playing an instrument, involved in some type of leadership activity, and if they're not doing all of these things by the time they're in third, sports has been a really interesting thing. You know, we talked about it once before, but it's gotten to the point where if you have a 9 or 10-year-old trying to jump into baseball, forget it.
Forget it.
And that's crazy to me, that at 9 or 10 you can't pick up a new skill, but it's the pressure that if you're not doing all of these things by the time they're in 2nd or 3rd grade, they're not going to get into college.
Right.
They're not, you know, it
is pretty crazy.
It
but
is.
It's so much pressure.
It's pressure on the children. It's not just on the adults, because it goes back to us taking care of ourselves, you know, because the calmer we can be, or the more that we can not be in that fight or flight or freeze, you know, they're learning from us all the time.
Yeah.
So
now I feel bad. I know I have a short fuse. Like I have that like quick temper. But when I start getting that like really overwhelmed feeling, and like I don't get a break, you know, I tell my husband, I'm like, I'm on empty. Like I am on empty, and I need time right now.
good.
I need it, because no one needs to see
Good.
the wrath of
I
Jen.
call that, you know what, I'm really glad, because, I mean, and that comes from us being aware and doing whatever we can do during the day, at whatever, you know, even if it's every other day, that being aware, I call it pattern interrupt. because all of a sudden you are so stressed, you're sending corn in a
Oh, yeah.
envelope or
If you need my
whatever.
recipe,
You're not
let me
even
know.
thinking anymore,
No.
right?
No, I mean, I was just proud of myself.
You know, you're running into the back of someone, or whatever.
Absolutely.
You're no longer present because the body is just in such a state of stress. All kinds of things happen. But so I encourage my clients and I do myself to do like pattern interrupt, like to bring myself maybe back to presence. It's often been used like when you leave a room, just walking through the doorway, like anytime you walk through a doorway, just taking 1 minute and just taking a breath and just, being there, there are things like I'll record things on my phone. And when I'm in that place of like, I can't do it anymore, I'll listen to something that's soothing to me. Even if it's my own voice saying, you got this, you can do this, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I think another thing is just the pattern interrupt is also asking for help.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean asking our friends for help. I'm talking about God, your higher power, whatever it is. Because sometimes I think we get so caught up in, I have to do this all by myself.
Yeah.
And remembering, no, we don't. There is something else that we can call on. Even my parents passed when I was very young, and many times, I'll just walk outside if there's a challenging time, and I'll say, Mom, I can't do it. I need help. And some way or another, it shows up, or something reminds me that I'm not totally alone.
Yep.
Because, being raised without parents, I felt alone a lot. So I think you have to look for other,
I'm sure, yeah.
other ways of support.
Yeah, absolutely. I stopped like a year ago doing this, but every month I would make these little videos of the kids. I'd take all my pictures and upload them to, it's like an app that creates it
Like
for you.
1 second app thing.
It's called Magisto. And so you upload a certain amount of videos and pictures and then pick a song, and it creates like I picked a 2-minute video. So I have 2-minute videos of every month for like the past 6 years. I need to get it. So anyway.
Do you feel guilty that you're not doing it anymore because it
Yes.
sounded like it? Don't feel guilty
Completely.
about it.
No, because I like them so much that I don't want to miss. So the point is though, like at night, my 4-year-old's asking, can we watch one of the videos before bed?
Aww.
And it's kind of like at night I'm reflecting like how quickly the time is going because I'm looking at videos of him from 3 years ago, and it's like I blinked. So I'm like in it, and at that time it's 8:30, and I'm like, just go to bed. Now we have to do another. But then I end up leaving the room, and it's kind of like, oh my gosh, like it's eye-opening how quickly the time's actually going. So I feel like it's actually become like a healthy little habit we're getting into.
I like that you said habit, because I always like to think of like little rituals. I can remember, when I was working 60 hours a week, and my son was very young, and I would just take Friday nights, and it would be the worst, most terrible drive-through meal ever, but it was a meal, and that was we called it our pallet night. So we would lay a blanket down, and he got to stay up later, so I wasn't stressed about trying to get him to bed, and it was a way for me just to chill too. So just,
No, I mean, self-care is just so important.
It's so important, and it's really, really difficult for women to build it in. And how many times have we talked already about feeling guilty?
Oh. Yeah.
Or
I feel like it's the number one emotion.
Yeah, the whole perfect thing.
Yes.
But I do think there are, like you were talking about that book, there's a lot of books out there now. Glennon Doyle writes, oh my God.
So good.
It will make you feel so not guilty.
I'm so impressed with
read
her.
a
She
lot.
really is so good with her.
I mean, that's almost like a Bible. All you have to do is open it up.
I'm going
right,
to send you that one.
okay,
That
send
one,
me
Glennon
that.
Doyle Untamed, is
girl,
you are a cheetah.
Yes, cheetah.
Thank you.
Listen, I'm compelled to get a T-shirt that says I'm a cheetah. I mean, I think we should all, yeah.
So good.
And
I need this.
it's really, things like that. We need things like that constantly reminding us to stop feeling guilty. We are not perfect. Nobody's ever going to be perfect. You're going to, get to be my age and look back, and there's never a perfect childhood with our children.
No.
It's just not.
No.
And the more that we strive for that, the more unhappy we become, and it still trickles down to our children.
Yeah.
We need our families to be just dysfunctional enough to make them funny.
I
think I've said it once before,
Exactly.
but it's very true.
Well, you're going to laugh anyway. Listen,
I know.
my son he has just, you wouldn't believe the material he has about doing stand-up about me. So, and the way I raised him.
I'd be terrified
if you're kids. Yeah.
So, and laughter, of course. I think humor is, well, I'm going through a divorce right now. So, if I didn't really laugh
Right.
at myself at times, it would, And sometimes you get that laugh and that cry.
Right, exactly.
So.
I know. I feel like a lot of my friends are constantly like, I don't know how you do everything you're doing. And people say that to you.
All the
I
time.
don't know how you do what you're doing. I mean that. She has a lot going on. But again, you never know, like, the emotions behind closed doors with people. And you just, I feel like we keep saying that and reiterating that, like, you're seeing the perfect stuff and you're not seeing, like, me chucking the computer mouse at the wall. I told you that the other day.
Well, and I think that's really hard on women too. Is I do encourage women to put the phone down as much as they can, because that does make you feel competitive or not perfect, or oh my God, look what they're doing. Oh, I need to go do that. And then the stress rises again. And I think we all know everybody. Not everybody. A lot of people try to look perfect on there. Yeah. But I love now that it's getting to the point where people are showing the realness. And God, especially at this point in time with everything that's happened in the last year, I just think people crave that. Yeah. So they want to hear the real. They don't really want to hear the perfect anymore.
No, I agree completely, because you don't relate to that.
No.
No one relates to perfect.
No.
You can strive all day, and it's never, it's not going to happen. I sent my kids to their picture day, and he had a baseball uniform on, like his socks, and I don't know. We try to keep it relatable.
Yes. Yep.
But what's your advice if you were to give advice to, like, the 30-somethings or, moms?
I would say a lot of the stuff that you think matters right now is not really going to matter. When I look back, I wish I hadn't been so freaked out about things looking great and, or the house, or I wish I'd been really more present. I wish I had the tools back then, or the knowledge or the awareness to do what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
And to put a stick in the spokes and slow things down and do that pattern interrupt,
Yeah.
Because I was working a lot of hours, and it's hard to be present, and it's not impossible. I mean, it can be done, but it just takes that constant coming back, which is why I started off with talking about why I think a daily practice is so important. Because if you can set yourself up, if there's any way possible, and I'm not saying it's always possible, if you can set yourself up in the morning with that reminder that there's a whole lot more things going right than going wrong. I've always thought if you give yourself that 5 minutes, the way you've set your day up, you might go out the door without being pissed off at the dog, and the kids are running late, and there might be a calmer way to start the day, which helps everybody.
Yeah, because I feel like I always say it's always something.
In the morning?
Yes.
Yes. It's always, it's like, I can't find my mask, I can't find my one shoe. It's always something. The dog peed upstairs,
Or threw up.
Yeah, Braden spilled his whole chocolate milk today on the coffee table. It literally is always something to deal with.
And I think if you can, and the other thing I would say to women too is that it's always going to be.
It's always going to be.
Yep.
Right.
And if you can just,
like, that's normal.
it's normal. That
Yeah.
is so normal. And if we can get to the point where, we might be able to laugh about it a little more or shrug it off a little more, it's just good for the whole family. And not only that, as you go out the door, you might not have the road rage about the person you're late, and it's a kind of, it's a residual effect that affects all day and everybody that you come in contact with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, everything is such like a season. Everyone's
is.
advice. Like, we went out to lunch yesterday, and there was a couple, they were older, and they said, "Oh, we've been watching you with your 3 boys, and just enjoy, enjoy, enjoy." I can't say it enough. It goes so fast.
That's true. That's absolutely true. I mean, finding that time just to take a breath and realize, most of the time, whatever we're doing is really not going to matter 3 years from now.
Yeah.
I mean, and our children are going to remember the feeling maybe more than the activity.
Right.
So if you don't go to the park every other day, or you're not taking them here or there, I think it's more about, sitting down on the floor with them, looking in their eyes, letting them feel you be present. That's what I wish I had done more of.
Yeah.
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 And I think that's super important.
Yeah. No, I love that. So we're going to have you back.
Yay!
For a part 2. So I appreciate that. And thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Do you want to plug real quick? I know you do life coaching.
I do, yeah. And my podcast will be coming out very soon. It's Golden's Guide to Divorce, where I'm supporting women in their journeys, kind of documenting mine, which that's really interesting. And then, I'm also a life coach. I love supporting women going through transition. And you can find me at deborahhawkins.com.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you, guys.
And we'll see you in a few weeks.
Great.
Thank you so much for watching, and we want to thank our sponsors real quick. Lisa Johnson at Fairway Mortgage, our new sponsor.
Jinx.
Yes, and then also we wanted to thank Wilson Associates Real Estate.
Absolutely.
We're going to actually do a little live after this.
A little
and
real
talk-
estate live.
Little real estate. Talk about the buyers out there in the market right now.
Ooh.
But also Parham Smith Archenhold and Blackacre Closing Attorneys. So thank you all for your support. We could not do this without you, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, everybody.